Hello, everybody. All right, happy Labor Day to everybody. Hopefully, you're all having a good one, today. For those, of course, in the United States and Canada, celebrating Labor Day today. Um, if you haven't already, if you can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here. That'd be, you know, um, that'd be great. Get them involved. Also, if anything we talk about tonight grabs your attention, feel free to comment and/or ask questions. We'll try to answer the questions to the best of our ability. Um, as such, let's see what's going on. So for tonight, probably get right into this here. Look like we have at least some other people in here. So um, tonight we're gonna go over a couple of articles from Bounding into Comics. Um, Still, we're working our way through everything. We're about a week behind, um, including an article in which Chuck Dixon further explains his belief that clarifies why Superman should not kill ever, and then also some more news, of course, on the live One Piece Netflix's live One Piece. We got some more commentary from the showrunner. And of course, after all that, of course, we do have also our of course our wrestling wrap up, and then this day in each history. So with that, without any further ado, why don't we go ahead and get started then? Let's get right into it here. All right, so without any further ado, let's get going here. So, alrighty then. So, um, rumor concerning writer Chuck Dixon further clarifies why Superman should not kill ever. Article by J.V. Augustine, um, published back on August 28th, which I believe was a week ago, actually. So let's see, today's the 4th. Yeah, a week ago, in the comic book section. So, in an earlier edition of his YouTube show, comic writer and creator of Bane, Chuck Dixon stated his ideal Superman would not kill. He explained his stance as a believer in the Man of Steel's intelligence and resourcefulness, allowing him to find a way to stop a foe without shedding blood or breaking necks. Therefore, you wouldn't see that in Dixon's movie. Now, mind you, too, I think we saw a lot of this stuff during, of course, during during Superman's runs in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, during the height of the Comics Code Authority. In the comics, they didn't have him kill. If anything, in fact, the Earth One Superman, the one that's based on the Silver Age version of Superman, they basically made him near omnipotent. He not only had all the physical superpowers, but he was also they basically just made him literally a Superman in all forms, not just physically super, but mentally super as well. Scientist, space explorer, everything. You know, It made him near omnipotent. Anyways, however, in the following episode of Ask Chuck Dixon, a viewer gave a detailed response defending Superman's occasional use of deadly force for certain threats, like Zod, who has apocalyptic power. He also provided a justification for Batman killing, reasoning that leaving rogues like the Joker alive does more harm than good to the people of Gotham, which on a logical level could be true. You know, Sometimes just eliminating the obstacle may be considered the better way of looking at it. But in Superman's case, for people like Zod, he could always send him off to the Phantom Zone. He doesn't have to kill. He doesn't have to outright kill him. He just send him off to the Phantom Zone, where they lack a corporeal form to do anything. You know, let's see. And again, feel free to comment and or ask questions if anything here grabs your attention. Um, it was a simple yet compelling argument, but Mr. Dixon had a compelling and sagacious answer that went in depth into the essence of Superman as a character. First, Dixon responded that the comic is a wish fulfillment fantasy that functions under certain rules. Quote, childhood wish fulfillment characters should never be lethal. He said. Good point. I mean, if a lot of these characters are being written for children, yeah, do you really want to put the idea into a child's head that killing is okay? I could see Chuck's point in that. Quote, Fred Flintstone should never murder Mr. Slate. Unquote. Fiction adds, even fictional heroes exist in a world of a strict moral code, i.e., Ten Commandments, and Superman, above all, would not violate that for reasons beyond the fact he was brought up in Kansas. He is not a soldier, for one thing. He is a citizen acting in the name of the rule of law. In other words, I think what Chuck is arguing there is that Superman should have no need to kill, in part. He's not in a situation where he should have to be. But anyway, Superman isn't endowed with the right to use lethal force. He acts as a hero, but in many respects, he is a volunteer as he chooses to use his powers for the greater good. Ideally, Superman is all about doing good and showing the good in people by embracing his adopted humanity. Quote, he should be a paragon, unquote, and not kill his enemies, Dixon said. In other words, yeah, paragon, an example of how to behave, that I believe is what he's talking about there. The idea is that, Superman should not need to kill for one thing. With him being particularly his Silver Age version, because Silver Age version, as we said, was made near omnipotent. He understands the argument in favor of Superman Batman killing, but Dixon wants his listeners to understand that the dissatisfaction some readers have with Lex Luthor or the Joker not being permanently disposed of is coming from the section of lifelong fans. Decades ago, comics thrived by courting new readers in the kid demo every few years. When new readers discovered and followed The Man of Steel and The Dark Knight, quote, the moral fatigue hadn't set in because it didn't have time to, unquote. Now, comics are driven by a quote unquote static aging readership that doesn't like to see their continuity altered drastically, which is what killing off Joker and Lex would do. Then they'd have to justify this to general audiences. Average people might know Luthor and the Clown are the arch enemies of their respective foils, but might not understand why they're gone. Readers of any age, Dixon argues, should be able to get lost in a story without getting distracted by quote unquote imponderables. Moreover, Dixon sees this as a flaw in modern comic writing. Quote, the writers haven't done their job, unquote, he said. If Superman or Batman kills, it's the fault of, quote, lazy writing, unquote, that turns an all American hero into a monster with godlike power, people who understandably be afraid of. Well, okay, that's part of it, but also I think because of the culture these a lot of these corporate comics are in now, it's like the whole idea is to destroy a lot of the traditional values that we grew up with too. It's like, okay, Superman was such a paragon, that he wouldn't kill. So what we're going to do is that we're going to make him a killer, so you hate him, or just simply just to show you that, yeah, he's not as good and noble as you think. You know, you know. If you agree or have any thoughts on that, let us know down below. All right, so that article went pretty quick then. As I said, if you guys have any comments or questions, feel free to post them, and I will of course try to answer the questions to the best of my ability, and if we did, let's see, one so that went pretty quickly. So I might even, depending upon what time it is after I get through the second article that I had intended, um, might go ahead and add an article here if I feel there's time to do so. Yeah, was that the one right there that we were going to try to go back to? Okay, so there's this. It was this one that we're going to read next here. Also from a week ago. Depending on how fast we get to that, might even add some more. All right, so Netflix's One Piece showrunner says production team aim to quote pay the right amount of attention to the fan base unquote. Hopes this respect will allow them to quote be forgiven for the new stuff that's added unquote. Article by Spencer McCauley, published August 28th, a week ago. Television uncategorized. So, according to series co-showrunner Stephen Maeda, one of the main differentiators between Netflix's One Piece and the other live-action anime adaptations is that the production team on his series aim to quote pay the right amount of attention to the fan base unquote. Now I do know that Yellow Flash did an article kind of on this earlier, talked a little bit about this earlier, where I guess now I think it was like this past Thursday that One Piece, the live action Netflix One Piece debuted, and the audience loved it. The critics panned it. The critics apparently panned it for not trying to change it, basically, for not getting political or not, for staying true to the source material, which is what fans want. You know. Anyways, a level of respect which he hopes will earn them a bit of grace concerning what supposedly few changes they made in translating the manga's original story to a completely different medium. Live action One Piece, um, boss, opened about his team's production philosophy during an August interview given to Screen Rant ahead of the series premiere. In parentheses here, author's note: since the article's publication, the interview has been either deleted or hidden from both Screen Rant's site and Google Cache. Um, First, broaching the topic after being asked by the outlet's Grant Hermans, quote, what were the main challenges of adopting such a popular story and one that comes from such a different medium, unquote. Maeda began his reflection by asserting, quote, yeah, I would say the biggest challenge was finding the balance, unquote. Quote, that was the biggest from the get-go with the writing, with what stories to tell and how to tell them and how to break them up over a season. Because obviously, when the manga was written, it was not with an eye toward an 8-episode television season, unquote, said the showrunner. Quote, and so I had to reframe that and kind of figure out, okay, what's a good beginning, middle, and end to the season? And that has really interesting storytelling, character arcs, and motion, unquote. Um, quote, it was finding that balance and then able also the balance between the hardcore fans who love every moment and every minute, you know, every detail and minutia um, of One Piece, but also how do we rope in new fans who have no idea what One Piece is, unquote. He continued. Quote, who are saying what is this crazy show with a pink pirate ship and a guy with stretchy powers? What's that about? And so the hardest thing, and still I think the hardest thing, is finding that balance, unquote. Quote, I've looked on some popular shows, but I've worked on some popular shows, but they had nothing like the fan base of One Piece, unquote, Maeda um, added. Quote, people are so passionate and they're so terrified of ruining their favorite manga that I felt a huge sense of responsibility to them. And of course, this picture right here is one that we know of had been a bit controversial a few months back. Hey, JR and Metal here. Let's see what you guys are saying here. Hail Lord Xenu, hail Princess Xena, our only true saviors. All right, and let's see. The metal. My brother has seen all the actual One Piece, all of that, and he's enjoying the live action show a lot. Oh, all right. Well, that's good to hear because I know again. Yeah. Well, it would seem what it would seem, guys, is that the fans are enjoying the show because they're being true to the true to the material, true to the source material. The people who are really who are really being critical of it are the critics, particularly the top critics, according to Yellow Flash. It's the critics and top critics who are like basically review bombing it, whereas there's a 96%, if you go to Rotten Tomatoes, I think it's got a 96% rating on Rotten Tomatoes from an audience score perspective, but only a 62% from according to top critics, 83 for all critics. So they're just review bombing it because they don't like the fact that there's ends up. Now this This picture right here stirred some controversy when it first came out because it sparked the whole Yamato debate. Is Yamato a girl or a boy? Even though, as we know, Oda has clearly stated several times that Yamato is a boy here in One Piece. This was this is a pictorial of all the female characters in One Piece. And Yamato, you see Yamato right there, in the kind of in the middle there, being depicted as a female. So, following further discussions regarding his experience working with One Piece creator Ichiro Oda himself and his favorite moments from the series, Maeda was then pressed for his thoughts on what he considered to be, quote, some of the hardest moments in this journey, to which the showrunner picked up where his above comments left off and recalled, quote, I think the hardest part was getting the scripts right, unquote. Quote, getting them right for Netflix, getting them right for Oda-san, getting them right for us, unquote, he detailed. Quote, and it was definitely a journey in trying to find that balance. Trying to figure out how much fan service to pay, where to make changes. Are those changes going to be okay, and how to keep alive the emotional content of those scenes. So even if a scene is not exactly as it was in the manga, you still feel the same emotion that you felt when you first read it. Whether that's you cry, you laugh, you're excited, thrilled, or scared, the whole point was to try to bring up that emotion. Even if something wasn't a one-to-one, that was a huge challenge, unquote. Oh, there's a live action Buggy right there. Jeff Ward, One Piece. Jeff Ward as Buggy the Clown in season 1 of One Piece. Uh, uh. So let's see if you guys are saying anything more yet. Uh, Yamato is a female trying to live her life as a man. Odin, whom she looked up to. As the Oda treats her as a woman, her father, her crew, and even the Straw Hats treat her like a man. So, interesting take there. Turning to address the elephant in the room, Hermans would then raise the specter of Netflix's abominable takes on both Cowboy Bebop and Death Note, inquiring as to what lessons, if any, Maeda had learned from those productions' objective failures. Quote, yeah, and I know this is also covered before too. Quote, yeah, I think the whole thing that there has never been a successful anime adaptation is a little overblown, unquote. Maeda opined to his interviewer, quote, it's true, and yet at the same time, those were all different people who were working on their shows. It really wasn't the same group failing again and again and again, unquote. Yes, but in each case, up until this point, Maeda, I think the thing is, though, Maeda is the only one who was actually trying to be respectful to the source material, where the other guys were not. I think that's one of the key things right there. And that has been argued as the key thing many times when this argument's come about. To this end, Maeda then explained, I think we just had to have the courage to say in small quotes, hey, you know what this one's going to, you know what, This one's going to be different. And if we pay the right amount of attention to the fan base and to keeping those Easter egg moments alive and really giving people a lot of the texture of the One Piece manga and some of the anime, then we will be forgiven for the new stuff that's added. Unsmall quote. And I certainly hope that's the case. Unquote. Quote. Because again, we never set out to do a one-to-one, but wanted to be very faithful to the source material. Unquote. The showrunner elaborated, quote, and at the same time tell a story that was never intended to be told when Oda-san first wrote the manga, which is an 8-episode TV season that has to have its own kind of rise and fall, and the manga was never structured that way. I think what he's basically saying there is they never intended to make it a one-to-one adaptation because the manga was never originally intended to be like a TV series. And like when Oda wrote it, he didn't think that 25, 26, 27 years after it came out that people would be thinking about doing a live action adaptation of it. I don't even think when he wrote the manga he was even thinking that they were going to do an anime adaptation when it first came out, but the manga became one of the most popular works of all time, and that translated to the anime. Now we'll see what happens with the live action television series. Quote, so of course it's not going to have that, unquote. It's not going to have that, unquote. Maeda concluded his thoughts on the topic. Quote, so it was finding those kinds of emotional points and bookends and signposts to be able to kind of direct you through an episode or season rather of television, unquote. Let's see. To be let's see. To be fair, they couldn't afford to make it a one-to-one. That would bankrupt the studio. Well, you might have a good point there. Hill Metal, Mike, Rick P, if you're lurking. Yeah. Um, and thank you guys, by the way, for the likes and the shares. Hopefully, we can get some more friendly people in here to get involved. And of course, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Okay, so notably, Maeda is the only member of One Piece's production team to have learned such a lesson from Hollywood's past live-action anime hubris. Reflecting on the widespread panning of Cowboy Bebop, um, of course, where we met Danielle Pineda, aka Doggy Style Daniela, I like to call her, because of that one pic she did after going off on people about, oh, she's not fake because she's not sexy. One Piece producer Marty Adelstein, who served as an executive producer on both anime adaptations and whose Tomorrow Studios produced them, admitted to Variety's Jennifer Mass, quote, what we learned is the fans are expecting you to be true to the source material. Yeah, I remember seeing, I think we covered that portion of the interview too. Quote, as we read the comments, brackets, in response to Cowboy Bebop, unbracketed, it was always, quote, well, they didn't do this character the same as this and that, unquote. He explained, quote, it really taught us a lot of what we needed to do with this one, unquote. Likewise, Tomorrow Studios president Becky Clements told Moss, quote, it became everyone's goal to make sure that when you looked at, in brackets, One Piece, you thought this was a live action. Let me go back to something here. on the wide. Oh. Oh, not the only member. Okay, yeah, that's what it said. Uh, Thought this was a live action version of the manga that just felt like another feather in the legacy of Oda. That people just got to see it in another genre, but still have the same reaction and feeling towards the narrative. Unquote. At current, Netflix's live action take on One Piece is set to let its flag fly on August 31st, which of course was this past Thursday. Okay, so now with that, let's see what time it is. Let me see what. Well, before I do that, let me get back to that point, and then I'll check what time it is and see if I feel that we have time to do one more article. Oh, yeah, that was the one we just did right there. So, all right, so let me see here. So 32 minutes. Yeah, let me see if I can find one more article to probably go through here. We have time for at least for just one more article. See, we already talked about Bray Wyatt. Let's see. Manga. Okay, well, here's one from the 29th. Let's check this. Let's see. Black Clover mangaka Yuki Tabata confirmed series will move from Weekly Shonen Jump to Shonen Jump Giga to offset the increasing demands of the. All right, so let's take a look at this thing because this is more manga related news. Manga, for those of you who may not know, is a Japanese version of a comic. It's a Japanese comic book. All right, so let's see. And this one's another popular one too. Dark Black Clover, rather. All right, so Black Clover mangaka Yuki Tabata confirmed series will move from Weekly Shonen Jump to Shonen Jump Giga to offset, quote, the increasing demands of a schedule for a weekly serialization, unquote. Article by Nerdigans published back on August 29th, which is last Tuesday, in the manga section here. So, as the final battle between the forces of Asta and Lucius Zogradis nears its ultimate conclusion, Black Clover author Yuki Tapada has announced that due to, quote, the increasing demands of the schedule for a weekly serialization, unquote, clashing with his own, quote, situation as a manga author, unquote, instead of Weekly Shonen Jump, his series will close out its run in sister magazine Jump Giga. All right. Uh, this change in Black Clover's release plans was first announced at the end of the series' 368th chapter, as featured in the August 20th issue of I guess Wall Street Journal, I guess, um, or Weekly Shonen Jump, I guess. Actually, Weekly Shonen Jump, not Wall Street Journal. Kicking off the first of two messages informing readers of the news, the magazine's editorial department confirmed that rather than continuing to abide by the weekly deadlines of Shueisha's flagship magazine, the series would be closing out its final story arc, in the publisher's Jump Giga, which instead publishes on a more lenient quarterly schedule, which basically means 4 times a year, every 3 months, basically. Um, quote, "Thank you for your continued support of Black Clover," unquote, wrote the Weekly Shonen Jump editorial department. Quote, "This will be the final chapter in Japanese Weekly Shonen Jump, and it will be moving to Jump Giga. The continuation of the story is planned to start this winter in Jump Giga," unquote. Interestingly, despite Black Clover's future serialization taking place in a different publication, the Weekly Shonen Jump editorial department further confirmed that the series would still be, quote, "be simultaneously published in English on Manga Plus by Shueisha and on the Shonen Jump platform," unquote. Quote, "We will share more details in the coming months." The editorial team concluded, quote, "We hope you will all continue to support the series through these changes. Thank you," unquote. Offering his own statement on the matter, Tabata explained to his readers, quote, "The serialization of Black Clover has been going on for a long time, and due the increasing, I guess he meant to say due to the increasing demands of the schedule for a weekly serialization, have been clashing more and more with my own situation as an author," unquote. Quote, "So after discussing this with the editorial department for a while, we decided to transfer the serialization to Giga at this time," unquote. He continued, quote, "It's a sudden move, and so it may surprise readers. I would also like to apologize for not being about to finish serialization in Weekly Shonen Jump. However, at Giga, I believe I can proceed with the climax of Black Clover in the most optimal condition, which also aligns with my personal situation as a writer," unquote. Unfortunately, with Jump Giga serving as a home to one-shots rather than any actual series, the one lone exception being Gintama, which came to a close following back-to-back appearances across 3 issues in 2019, concerns had arisen among fans that Black Clover would be forced into a rushed conclusion. Thankfully, in his same message, Tabata would put those fears to rest by reassuring fans that, quote, "There are still quite a few stories I'd like to draw that I also must draw," unquote, and asking that they, quote, "please look forward to them," unquote. So even though it tends to have more one shots and all that, this is going to be one of the few serializations that's going to be going on in this book, which I think is what he's trying to reassure fans of. And we have W chat, W, well, W scat orange whistling. All right, don't understand any of that, but anyways, we continue on here. Quote, I'll do my best to bring Black Clover to a successful conclusion," unquote, concluded. Quote, while may need a bit of your while they may need a bit of your patience, I will definitely power up in the upcoming winter issue of Giga. So I would be grateful if you can keep an eye on Asuka and everyone else's future. Thank you very much for your continued support. Uh, So Tabata did not provide exact details as to how his quote unquote situation as a manga author has changed. A glance at his recent entries for Weekly Shonen Jump authors' comments section suggests both he and his family have been dealing with a slew of health issues in recent months. Some fans have come to speculate may have played a factor in the devoted husband and father's request for a transfer to Jump Giga. And we've seen this quite a bit over the years. We've seen this with a number of manga creators, mangakas, who either due to health issues or other issues like that have they've gone on long hiatuses, what have you. So prior to Black Clover going on a sudden 2-week hiatus, Tabata told editors in Weekly Shonen Jump 22 issue number 46, quote, "My daughter caught a bad cold and needed to be hospitalized for a week. Her dad is full of worry and loneliness." Aww. In Weekly Shonen Jump 2023, issue number 29, Tabata shockingly announced, quote, "My wife had to be admitted for emergency surgery. My mother-in-law came up to help me battle my toddler." Okay. Uh, let's see. In a follow-up updated shared for Weekly Shonen Jump 2023's number 3637 dual issue, manga would confirm, quote, "My wife had her gallbladder removed and has safely returned home after a week in the hospital. I'm so happy she's okay." Okay, that's good to hear. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. In terms of the series itself, this publication swap comes just as Lucius finds himself descended upon by the combined forces of Asta, Yuno, and the revived Ultimate Black Bulls, the latter of whom charge onto the battle, declaring, quote, "It's not done yet. We're just getting started, dumbass." Unquote. As the chapter comes to a close, Asta and Yuno, both as respectively bullheaded and stubborn as ever, finally reunite by each other's side with their swords drawn and at the ready. The two rush into their final clash with Lucius, the winner of whom will be crowned the next Wizard King. Alrighty then, so there we go. Alright, so that's all the articles we're going to do tonight. We're at the 43-minute mark, so let's try to start wrapping things up here. Of course, we're going to move on to a wrestling wrap-up. They'll go over some things that, of course, been going on over the weekend. Of course, first in WWE news, we'll go over Payback from Saturday's Payback, which was it did have some one title change for Payback, but also so here's the results from Payback from Saturday's Payback from the PPG Paints Arena from this past Saturday. So Becky Lynch defeated Trish Stratus in a steel cage match. And from the looks of it, now this is the conclusion of their feud. As now each of them is going to be moving on into another feud. Trish Stratus would apparently turn on her most recent ally, Zoe Starks. She blames Zoe for her loss in steel cage. That looks like they're maybe setting up a feud there. While Becky Lynch has been kind of being harassed of late by NXT Women's Champion Tiffany Stratton, who basically is kind of poking and prodding at Lynch over the fact that Lynch never won the NXT Women's Championship. So this may set up a program between Lynch and Stratton for Lynch to ultimately win the NXT title. In a single match in which John Cena, who was serving as host for the Payback event, He was serving as special guest referee for this match. LA Knight defeated The Miz, as this might be a sign of, while Hollywood is striking right now, John Cena would seem to be maybe developing some programs for Cena on the wrestling side of it, in the WWE, So there's been some talk too that they're trying to set up a dream match maybe between Cena and Cody Rhodes. Cody, of course, has indicated he wants to do it. And this is, of course, this match had LA Knight defeating Miz to further build himself up. As right now, LA Knight's one of the hottest acts in the WWE right now. Rey Mysterio retained the United States Championship over Austin Theory, as Austin Theory got his contractual rematch here at Payback. There has been some talk that maybe Austin Theory and Grayson Waller might get together as a team, as for a while Theory's been on a bit of a downslope, while Ray been on an upslope with the LWO, with the newest incarnation of the LWO, the Latino World Order, in which they are ultimately possibly planning a match between Ray and Santos Escobar. Finn Balor and Damian Priest would become the one title change that happened at Payback. Finn Balor and Damian Priest, representing Judgment Day, defeated Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn for the unified tag team titles in a Steel City street fight. Rhea Ripley retained the women's world title over Raquel Rodriguez. Basically having Judgment Day really have quite a successful night. And in the main event, Seth Rollins would retain the world heavyweight title over Shinsuke Nakamura. So that all happened on the WWE side of things. Let's see. So now AEW had its own pay-per-view yesterday, which was All Out. On the pre-show, on the 0 hour pre-show, All Out, of course, and the pre-show came from the United Center in Chicago, Illinois. Opening up the pre-show, over-budget charity battle royal, Adam Page defeated a number of other contenders to win the match. In a 6-woman tag match, Hikaru Shida, Sky Blue, and Willow Nightingale defeated Ring of Honor World Champion Athena, Diamante, or Ring of Honor World Women's Champion Athena, Diamante, and Mercedes Martinez. And in the main event of the pre-show, the 0 hour pre-show, in a AEW World Trios titles match, Billy Gunn and the Acclaimed retained over Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, and Satnam Singh, with, of course, Dennis Rodman in their corner, while Sanjay Dutt and Karen Jarrett were in the corner of Jarrett, Lethal, and Singh. That was the 0 hour pre-show. Now at the All Out event itself from the United Center, opening match saw the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions, Better Than You, baby, Adam Cole and MJF, who's also the AEW World Champion, retain over the Dark Order members of Alex Reynolds and John Silver, who had Evil Uno in their corner. Samoa Joe retained the World Television title over Shane Taylor. Luchasaurus retained the TNT title over Darby Allin. Miro defeated Powerhouse Hobbs in a match that saw the possible return to wrestling of Miro's real-life wife, CJ Perry, a.k.a. Lana. She made an appearance. Now, whether or not she's actually, apparently, I don't think she's signed but there has been talk that she may be getting signed soon. Chris Statlander retained the TBS title over Ruby Soho, who had Saraya, the AEW World Women's Champion, in her corner. In a no disqualification strap match, Bryan Danielson, making his in-ring return, defeated Ricky Starks. Now, originally, this was supposed to be CM Punk versus Ricky Starks. But we'll talk about that a little bit more. Obviously, it was changed, and we'll talk a little bit more about that situation in a moment. Claudio Castagnoli, Ring of Honor World Champion Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta of the Blackpool Combat Club defeated New Japan Strong Open Weight Champion Eddie Kingston and Ring of Honor Pure Champion Katsuyori Shibata in a tag team match. Konosuke Takeshita defeated Kenny Omega in an 8-man tag. Bullet Club Gold defeated AEW World Tag Team Champions FTR and the Young Bucks. And the one lone title change that did happen, Jon Moxley would become your new AEW International title and what proved to be a pretty successful night for the Blackpool Combat Club, defeating Orange Cassidy. So Blackpool Combat Club had a strong not such good nights. But now, as to what I said earlier, there is some other news involving AEW, as it was reported on Friday that CM Punk has been terminated from AEW due to the incident that happened between him and Jack Perry at All In. Not yesterday, but the week before. The situation apparently got so bad that even Tony Khan felt threatened by Punk, and I think Tony Khan just finally said he's had enough of Punk's behavior. This coming off the idea of Punk got his own show, so he wouldn't have to deal with that drama, and then you still get drama from him. So. And there has been some talk that WWE might be interested in bringing Punk back to there, but I personally don't see that happening. Not just because of how he got fired, but it was also reported earlier today that there was another incident that was actually kind of kept quiet it didn't come to light until just recently. It happened a while back while William Regal was still in AEW, in which Punk got into his face. And said he didn't like him and all that. So, personally, from what I would gather, I doubt very seriously, unless it's like some indie show that's just desperate to get a name in there. I don't really think you're going to see CM Punk on the national wrestling scene, because I don't think WWE will take him back. AEW is obviously not going to take him back. And I don't really think that Impact or Major League Wrestling here in the States would want that headache. And I definitely know Japan wouldn't put up with that. All Japan nor New Japan would not put up with that garbage either. So, and now one more piece of course, one more piece of niche or wrestling wrap up to do. As speaking of Impact, this weekend is going to be a very big weekend for them, as on Friday they're going to have their Victory Road event, and then on Saturday is going to be the taping of their 1000th episode, in which both will be happening from White Plains, New York. Both cards are already set. The Victory Road card having the main event, Trinity defending the Knockouts World title over Alicia Edwards. The Rascals will be defending the World Tag Team Championship over the Motor City Machine Guns of Impact World Champion Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. Josh Alexander takes on Steve Macklin. In Anything Goes match, PCO takes on Bully Ray. For the X Division title, Kushida is going to cash in his X Gauntlet match contract, and he will challenge for the X Division title. He'll be challenging Leo Rush. Jordan Grace looks to get some revenge on Diono Purrazzo, as they'll be facing off against each other. And in a title versus career match, Kenny King will be defending the digital media title against Tommy Dreamer. Tommy Dreamer putting his career up on the line after feeling that Kenny King has been very disrespectful to the locker room, and of course after his actions after his match with Johnny Swinger. So so there's that, and then for those who are in the Westchester County Center area of White Plains, New York, the day after Victory Road, they'll be taping the 1,000th episode, as I said, of and that will be, and of course, that will be shown on the following Thursday. But for those in the Westchester County area, you can go get tickets for that. On that event, on the 1,000th episode, you have Alex Shelley defending Impact World title against Trey Miguel. In a mixed tag team match, Frank Kazarian and Tracy Brooks are set to take on the Eddie and Alicia Edwards. Devon Hughes, brother Devon Dudley, however you want to call him, will be making his return to Impact, and it will be the first time I think they said in something like 7 years, he and Bully Ray, as they'll be in action. Opponents to be determined. There'll be a 10-woman tag team matchup already with a participant on each team still to be determined. Thus far, on one side you'll have Angelina Love, Diono Purrazzo, Giselle Shaw, and Samantha Evans, and a mystery partner taking on Awesome Kong, Gail Kim, Jordan Grace, and Impact Knockouts champion Trinity, and a mystery partner on their side. And then opening up the show will be Dirty Dango taking on Jake Something. So have a lot to look forward to in the week to come here in wrestling. So now, before we head out, we will have one more thing to do, which is this day, and we're going to look back. Day being Monday, September 4th, 2023. Let's take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. Let's see. First off, I'd like to wish a happy 70th birthday to Japanese wrestler Sei Kimura, known to most fans as Kengo Kimura. He was, of course, a longtime tag team partner of Tatsumi Fujinami. He was with Fujinami. He was a 4-time IWGP Tag Team Champion, as well as being a former WWF International Tag Team Champion. So, happy 70th birthday to Kengo Kimura. Let's see now. Also, let me see here. Also, heading back 30 years ago today, back in 1993. Back in 1993, Nippon Animation's Muka Muka Paradise would premiere on Japanese television on the Mainichi broadcasting system on this date back 30 years ago today. Muka Muka Paradise. Story revolves around a young girl named Uiba Shikatani and her newly found pet dinosaur, which is named after the only words come out of its mouth, Muka Muka. So on this day in 1993, 30 years ago today, the premiere of Muka Muka Paradise lasted for 51 episodes, so basically a year. And moving ahead now to 2013, on this date, 10 years ago today, in 2013, on this date in 2013, the 10th issue of Batman 66, the digital version, was released on this date back in 2013. Batman 66, of course, is a comic based on the 1966 live-action Batman television series. On this date, 10 years ago, 10th issue of Batman 66 was released. The Hatter Takes the Crown, as written by Jeff Parker, art and coloring by Jonathan Case. Wes Abbott did lettering. And 2013 is just so nice that we're going to hit it twice. As also on this date back in 2013, the final episode of Futurama airs on Comedy Central after 4 seasons and 52 episodes. The show would be revived again in 2022, with Hulu ordering 20 episodes for 2023. So Futurama, of course, was originally on Fox, canceled, then picked up by Comedy Central. So this is the final episode they aired on Comedy Central that happened on this date 10 years ago. So there you go. So that's all I have for you tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. We're back here tomorrow night with more Niche news. So with that, I thank everybody for being here. And don't forget, of course, Friday, I'll have Tim Olson with me as we will be going over comics that went on sale in December 1939 from what we now know of today as Archie comic. We'll be going over Blue Ribbon. I believe it's Volume 1, Issue 4, I believe, or it might be 3 or 4. I have to double check that. But with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.